Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm so happy you're joining me for this episode of Saturday with Sara. Well, today I want to show you some gorgeous new supplies for doing one of my favorite techniques, gilding. And this gives you a beautiful metallic effect, ideal for using with your stamps and cutting dies. So our friends at Crafters Companion have two collections of gilding flakes. The first that you see here is the blush collection. Now this contains pots of rose gold, soft rose, and pretty pink gilding flakes. And the second pack is called Carnival and contains midnight mauve, deep iris, and lapis blue. Now to create your metallic effects, you'll simply sprinkle some of the flakes from the jars onto an adhesive area and then burnish with a sponge. So you'll need a tool set like this one, which contains the liquid adhesive plus a dry ink pad and 3 sponges. Now this technique is so much fun and there are so many different variations you can do, and Crafter's Companion makes it all easy. So today I have some demos for you plus a couple of projects too. As you can see, we have a lot to explore today and I'm so glad you're here. Come play with us. You can use gilding flakes for so many different techniques, but I thought with our first demo we could start with a technique that's really fun and easy to do, and that is stenciling. So I think if I'm moving my card, you can see this beautiful shine of the design on here. Well, this is the double diamond stencil, which has been used in combination with gilding flakes. And I've done this directly onto a piece of floral pattern paper. This paper comes from the Poppy collection, and that's what I've used throughout today's webisode. So I just love how this creates a beautiful shabby chic effect and creates some really nice balance between the florals and creates some depth and dimension. And it's really easy to do too. So let's take a look. I'm going to move aside my card and we can talk about some of the supplies that I have on hand here. So first of all, I've got my stencil and I've also got my gilding flakes. Now I just grabbed the deep iris color here, so that's what I thought we could use. Now in order to do my stenciling, of course I need to have something for the gilding flake to adhere to, and in this case I'm going to use the liquid glue and the dry ink pad that come with the Crafter's Companion set. Also in that tool set you've got a little dry sponge. You've actually got 3 of them, so I've got this guy on hand here too. So what I'll need to do before I get my stenciling ready to go is I need to prime my ink pad. And when you get your ink pad, it will be dry, just like it says. And you're going to need to open this up, take some of the liquid glue, and just apply this directly onto the ink pad. Now I've already got some glue on my ink pad, so I'm not going to overdo it here with the glue. But you just need to squeeze a little bit on there and then sort of shuffle it around to make sure that that ink pad is completely covered. I like to just test it with my finger, see if it's got enough on there to be tacky. That's what you need. So let's see, I'm going to kind of spread this out a little bit here with my finger. Another good thing to have on hand when you're doing this is some baby wipes, just to keep your hands clean and not sticky so you don't get the gilding flakes stuck onto your hands. So I've got my ink pad ready to go. I also have my sponge on hand. I'll set that aside. I have my scrap paper to funnel the flakes back into my container, and I am working on my craft mat. This is really important. It just makes things easier to clean up. Okay, so let's set this aside for now. I'm going to open up my scrap paper and set my piece of cardstock right on here, and my stencil can go right on top there. And then what I'm going to do is simply apply my glue through the stencil onto my cardstock. I'm going to work pretty quickly. I want to make sure that I get as much glue on here as I can without squashing it on there. So I've applied my glue. I'm going to lift off my stencil again quickly. You don't want that to get glued on there. And then come in with my gilding flakes. So just simply place these on here and make sure that I'm getting all of that gluey area covered with the gilding flakes. And I'm just using my hands for this to press this on here. Kind of lightly burnish that down. And you can start to see the pattern emerge a little bit here. So then what I'm going to do is grab that sponge and gently burnish the design so that I'm removing the excess gilding flakes and that design can come out. And look how pretty that is. There we go. And now that I've got my excess flakes off here, so I can kind of shuffle these back onto my folded scrap paper, and then I can use this to funnel those flakes right back into the jar. I'm going to do that quickly over here. Make sure, because these are so lightweight, make sure that you get that lid back on there. And then what you might want to do is have a blending brush or a dry paintbrush on hand, and you can sort of shuffle away the finer, dustier pieces of the gilding flakes. So here we go, and you can start to see that gorgeous pattern and design on here. Super simple and easy to do. So I'm going to clean off my hands just a little bit. You can see how how the gilding flakes can tend to stick to you. So one thing to keep in mind, I'll bring back in my original card and we can see again on here what I've done. Now in this case, I've used the Soft Rose from the Blush collection. That's the gilding flake color that I'm using. And I've got a cutout from the Poppies collection, just simply mounted up onto some cardstock with a little gingham bow on here. Then for my card inside, I have another piece of that Poppies paper. And in this case, I have inked the edges of that paper and used some of the gilding flakes to create a gilded edge. Really easy to do as well. So I'm going to bring in another piece of cardstock and let's try it on black this time. Let's see what this looks like. And again, I'm just going to open this up here. Got some flakes in here already. I'm going to decant a little bit, put them in here so I've got them on hand. And then similar to using an ink pad to edge your paper, I'm just going to apply this glue right along the edge like so. You can do as much or as little as you want. Get the lid on my ink pad and then take some of the gilding flakes, kind of shuffle those along the edge there. Press that down with my finger. Same process as before, using that sponge to get rid of any excess and the brush to brush away any of those fine pieces. And let's see, I'm going to fold this up and I think you can see that beautiful shiny edge on there. So easy to do and just gives a really gorgeous look. So you can see the difference between using white or using black cardstock. And of course, pattern paper cardstock also looks beautiful with any kind of gilding technique as well. Okay, so one more quick look at our card before we move on to another technique. Again, you can see how nicely that coordinates with the patterned paper on there. And then again with our beautiful edging on here. Now in this case, I was using the deep iris to go along the outside edge of this. So you can mix and match your gilding flakes as well. This card design features an all-over gilded and die-cut piece. And with this area, I've simply applied gilding flakes to a piece of white cardstock, then die-cut the piece using the rose lace die. Now in this case, I'm using not one, not two, but 3 different gilding flake colors. So all 3 from the Blush collection. So yes, you can mix and match your different gilding colors if you want to, and it can create a really pretty and variegated effect. Perfect for larger surfaces like this one here. So let's take a look at the process. I'll move aside my card, I'll move aside my die for now, and I've got my scrap paper here, you can see, with my piece of white cardstock on top. Now with my 3 colors, I do want to make sure I've got the lids kind of off here so that they're ready to use. I'll get this one here, and then my middle jar as well. Get that off. You can see that beautiful color on here and how gorgeous all of these colors will be together. So what I'll need to do first is cover my entire piece with my adhesive, and then I can simply add my gilding flakes on top. Now, what I do want to keep in mind is the size of my die. So this is the outside frame of my rose lace die. So I don't need to go edge to edge, but I do need to get pretty much all of this surface area covered. So it's just a good way to keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to take my ink or my glue pad here, and it looks like it could use a little bit of a refresher. And I do tend to refresh the glue pad in between pretty much every application. Just give it a little test with your finger and see if you need to get more glue on there. And so here's what I'm going to do is just press this on, and you can hear that it's tacky, so that glue is definitely going on there. It's a little hard to see, I know, because it's clear glue on white. So we will see how well my coverage is going on here. Okay, now starting off, I'm going to start with my lightest color and just apply this directly on here. I'm going to grab some of my next darkest color and create a bit of a pattern on here, kind of random, and then pick up some of the brightest color. So I'm alternating the places where I'm covering this on here. And then same process as before. I'm just going to press this down with my hands. I can see where I've missed a little bit of glue. We'll have to patch that up a little bit later. And simply smooth this down. Now I've got a little bit of a bald area here, so if I want to fill this in, I would not press the glue pad on there because then I'm going to get gilding flakes stuck in my glue. So instead, I'm just going to get a little bit on my finger, kind of tap that in there. Clean off my hand quickly, and then just grab another little piece and sort of fill that in. Okay. And then I'm going to take my sponge and simply burnish this on here. Now, because I have a mixture of a couple of different colors, I don't want to return all of the excess to any one of these pots. So I'm going to pop the lids back on these. You can see why you don't want to have the fan on in your crafting room. Now, these are going to be flying everywhere. So instead, what I'm going to do is tap off the excess here. Now I've got some nice big flakes in here that I don't want to go to waste. So what I like to do is keep a jar or bucket, or in my case an ice cream container, where I can just have all of my excess mixture of colors, and that can create a really fun piece to work with as well. Okay, so I've got the rest of my piece on here, and then what I'm going to do is die cut this. But take a look at that beautiful shine. I could use this as a background as well, just as is, but die cutting from it is going to be a lot of fun too. So make sure that that is all removed on here. Make sure that the glue is dry before you do your die cutting. Otherwise you can end up with a bit of a sticky mess. So I really recommend that you let that dry and then simply place your dies on here like so. Secure them down with a little low tack tape and run it through your die cutting machine. Now, one other little tip to keep in mind, you may want to place a piece of scrap paper over this gilded surface so that you don't get stray gilding flakes in your machine. So maybe keeping things a little bit tidier, create a bit of a sandwich with a piece of scrap paper. So then I would just send that through my die cutting machine and I will have a beautiful piece like this. So back to the card, you can see I've simply combined this piece with some solid cardstock colors. These are from the Poppies cardstock set, and I added a script dazzle and a little gingham bow on here. For the card inside, I have some pattern paper from the Poppies set, plus some more die-cut gilded pieces here. Now, I just simply cut these apart with scissors so you can get a completely different look, as you can see here. A lot of fun to add those in there. And I do recommend that you use the sticky specks to glue those delicate pieces down. That will ensure that they stay down and you won't have any glue kind of showing out from the outside edges. Then I overlapped another script dazzle on top for a finishing touch. Stamping with gilding flakes is one of my favorite techniques, and that's what I've done to create the butterfly motif on this card. So this technique works really well with lots of different kinds of stamps, and silhouette stamps like what I've used for the butterfly body, these look especially striking. So I'm using the Easy Watercolor Butterflies for this card, and I'll do a demonstration with this, and then I'll also show you another card that is using a stamp that has a lot finer detail, so you can see how they both look. But the process is the same, a lot of fun and also easy to do. So I'm using the lapis blue from the Carnival collection for this, and I'm working on some dark cardstock, or darker shade of cardstock. So I thought for our demo we'd take a look at this process on a piece of white cardstock, and you can see the difference there. So I'm going to bring this in. I'll move aside my stamp set and set these things over here. Now, I have my stamp mounted onto an acrylic block, so this is ready to go. And what I need to do is apply the glue from the glue ink pad onto the stamp and then stamp this onto my piece of cardstock. So once again, I want to just check and see that there's enough on here so that I've got some good coverage. I'll just apply a little bit more of this glue on here. And then simply apply my glue onto my stamp, just like I would a regular ink pad. Okay, so working quickly, I want to stamp this down, just like a regular stamp and ink process. I'm going to lift this off. I want to do this pretty quickly, and then directly into my piece of scrap paper. Oop. And I didn't take my own advice to open this slowly. And I'll simply place this down on here. And again, grabbing that burnishing sponge, simply burnish off the excess. And let's tap this off. Use my brush here. And there you can see that beautiful design. So pretty and so easy to do. So again, tap off some of this excess and get this back into the pot. Okay, I'm going to tap that in there. And be sure and pop the lid on. And then let's take a look here. I'm going to brush this away. Ooh, I've got some of that pink on, still on my blending brush, which is adding a bit of a halo effect on here. Make sure I've got all of those dusty little pieces removed, or as much as I can of this. And then what I can do, I can either leave this as is, as a silhouette design. I can also come back with the other layer of this butterfly, which is this one right here. And I'm going to pop this onto my acrylic block. And then I'm going to ink this one up, and I'm using the VersaFine, the Onyx Black. Ink this up here. And then I'm going to position this on top, doing my best to align this, and place that down. and then lift. And I've got my accent on here. So I've got my stamped butterfly with some texture and shine. Just creates a really beautiful look. So this is using the watercolor butterflies, which are going to give you a really pretty and watercolor effect. Now, if you want to, you can use that as your card focal, and that's what I've done here. So I've got my watercolor butterfly as the focal. I've got a script dazzle on here, combination of some pattern paper and some cardstock. I've got on the inside more pattern paper and cardstock and another dazzle. But let's take a look at what the effect is if you are using something finer with your stamping design. So this is using the Oliver script stamp. Let me show you this one here. So this, you can see, has a lot of fine detail on it. And in this case, I have used the deep iris. And I also edged around this piece before layering it onto white and green cardstock. Now I tore a piece of white vellum and just placed this down on here for an added bit of dimension. The card focal is from the Butterflies Dazzle set, and I've got a script dazzle on here too. Then the card inside is really simple with more green cardstock and a few more dazzles. And that is our final project of the day today. Boy, I've got gilding flakes everywhere, and it is so much fun. I just love the process of this and how easy it is to add some texture and shine to your designs. A big thank you to our friends at Crafter's Companion for these fabulous supplies, and a special thanks to you for joining me today. We're really glad you're here, and we're happy you're part of the Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 3 to 5 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.